Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 20 of Mind of a Geek. I am joined, as always, in the studio by Brandon. Brandon, how's it going?
Hello, long time no see.
I know we took the whole weekend off, and here it is Tuesday, and we're finally doing a show. Technical difficulties. What was it?
Technical difficulties.
Oh no, it's
abound.
Wednesday. I'm not even getting the day
no,
right.
it's Wednesday. I know.
But technical difficulties Monday kept us away. But we are back. We have a great guest for everybody this evening. Excuse me. From Diamond Club, one of the creators of the Contender card game, I would like to welcome Mr. Justin Robert Young to the show. Justin, how's it going?
I'll tell you what, I really like that intro. I like the idea of like from Diamond Club, like just like that. That's like its own thing. You don't need to list off every podcast I'm on. Like we just from Diamond Club. I like that. That's good. It makes it sound like a wrestling faction.
In this corner,
Yeah, representing Diamond Club.
I forget he's a huge wrestling fan. He does kind of like what we do. He does the like live commentary for the pay-per-views on those Sundays.
You know, I've been getting a lot of messages lately saying people miss that.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's amazing, right?
Yeah, I know. But so yeah, I'm sure we'll migrate to wrestling eventually because we're all big wrestling fans.
Oh, really? Okay, good.
Oh yeah. We have that. I messaged you a couple months ago on Facebook doing that was awesome. The Mystery Science Theater 3000 styled wrestling podcast where we do commentary over past wrestling events.
That's a great idea. Yeah, absolutely. No, you guys should do that. Add me to the list of people who want you guys to bring that back.
Anyway, so yeah, that's cool. Yeah, no, we will. We'll have to. I think what really lulled it for us was we had hit a few really crappy pay-per-views.
Well, we got stuck in the 80s, and there were a few real stinkers there.
Yeah, and then like that 90s. What's that?
What promotions were you watching? Just WWF or
everything on the network? We would just go around the WWF, WCW, and ECW.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, now they got a lot of the old stuff. Like they got a lot of like the Mid-South and stuff like that. So you can see some like real country ass wrestling. But where a lot of the guys that wound up becoming gigantic in WWF came from, like Jim Duggan and Ted DiBiase and stuff like that. Like it's funny to see them in characters that were obviously gigantically charismatic and could very much be huge stars, but the crazed genius of Vince McMahon seeing just where to make that little turn. It didn't always work, right? And sometimes it put them in a box, but like at the same time, there's people make references to the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase today in 2016.
Right. Oh, for sure.
Don't talk about Ted DiBiase in Mid-South. So, there's something to it.
Yeah, he definitely had, he knew what he was doing. And now I love the direction that Triple H is taking it with NXT, and I'm excited for
we're
when
getting way smarky. We're crowding out everybody who's not currently logged into r/squared circle. So let's save the wrestling talk for the end. If anybody, I mean, listen, I'm doing this more for myself than I am for you guys, because I could just keep talking about this all day. And so I gotta be conscious of when to cut myself off.
What we should do is we should bring back the podcast, and we should get you on there with us one night. Because I know you have the network, so you can actually watch along with us.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, Hunter.
So, well, let's go from talking about your passion of wrestling to talking about what it is that you do. And again, as I mentioned, you have all the stuff over at Diamond Club as well as the Contender. So I'll let you pick what you want to talk about first and run with it.
Sure. I mean, that's always a weird question because I've done a lot of different stuff, and it is certainly my steadfast belief. There was an idea back in the day where, you always wanted to do one thing, stay in your lane, do the one thing that people love you for, and ignore other elements of it. And I think that was very, very true in a different world. We're in a world of many niches now, and I want to do as many things as people want to hear me talk about. And maybe that's, hindering things, but at the same time, I want to be a voice in wrestling as I am a voice with Hearthstone, as I am a voice with tech, as I am a voice with just a comedy show, or politics, because the more that I can do in all those, obviously, is just kind of the better career I can have, and the more, to my overarching philosophy, we can kind of have connections with people that are all over the world and the country. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess my question is, do you like what do you? I do so many things. There's not really one that I don't want to lead us down a path that you guys aren't interested in. So like,
I think that diversification is key, and being multifaceted in this day and age is a great thing. And where you said connection, definitely connection. We have so many different podcasts and things that we do, and I've met so many great people in the last few months just from doing all these different things.
yeah.
I think in terms of you, the thing that's had the most impact on us is the Contender. So I'd like to hear a little bit about that and how that came to fruition.
So, fun story about that. Let me actually see if I can pull it up now because there is actually for those game designy among us, there is a great write-up that my co-creator John Teasdale did, where he went through like all the mechanics on how the game came together and in all the stages, and includes print and plays for every step of the way, so you can kind of physically see how things came together. In fact, I'll tell you what, you can get it by just going over to twitter.com/contendergame. It's the first post there. But all right, so let me give you the 10 peso version.
All right.
John Teasdale and I both used to work for a company called the Go Game. It is a fantastic institution. And if you are in the market for corporate entertainment, up to and including team building, retreat days, whatever, then you owe it to yourself to head on over to thegogame.com and take a look at what they do. Effectively, we put together big adult scavenger hunts that were multimedia, involved actors and stuff like that. It was a blast. It's a lot of traveling, but you effectively were in a world where you were thinking about game design quite a bit. I had never made a tabletop game until I just was randomly out on the road with John. We had an idea for a game called Who Does Nobody Like, which was basically a dead rip on the mechanics for a game called True Colors, which wound up being a game that was harder to get. I think it's back in print now. But at the time that we were excited about it when I was in high school, it had this reputation of being like a banned game or a game that had fallen out of print because it wasn't very popular because you wound up being kind of too mean with your friends. It very easily got into a too real kind of zone. So we were like, okay, let's do the ultimate, like if this is kind of tastes bad, what's the ricin version? Like, what's the you will kill yourself if you swallow too much of this? And so that was Who Does Nobody Like. And so instead of there being like kind of leading questions like who is the most the most likely to not pay in a group check for a dinner, instead it was like who would you not bail out of jail or stuff like that, or who's been to jail?
That sounds amazing.
If they were a teacher, would they obviously sleep with a student? Like stuff like that.
Right.
So we had a really, really, really good time writing it, and we had a great time more specifically talking about kind of the mechanics of it and what was interesting in terms of the Venn diagram of clever writing versus playability, trying to think of very real world problems like, hey, look, if your mechanic is you have 6 people and everybody's laughing, how do we figure out who each person is? And how do we work that into a digital version? How do we print out these cards? And it was really just a great matching because I have a lot of wild-eyed, crazy ideas, and so does John, but John is way, way, way better at making things,
Right.
And so, it was us brainstorming back and forth. If it was just me, that's where it would have just left, right? Just would have sat.
That's basically our dynamic right there.
Right.
I come up with a bunch of stupid ideas, and Nate makes it happen.
Exactly. John throws it into a Google sheet, right? And flows it into a thing, does a little Photoshop template for the cards, and we can run it off to this card thing. Within a week of us talking,
Wow.
we had copies of the game and had it plugged into a store where people could buy print and play copies. That was very, very cool and interesting. And so we have that, and that kind of sits there for a while. And then one day we just get to talking. We're walking to a burrito place in the Mission called Little Chihuahua. And we get to talking about a card game that would be quick. Like that we both kind of agreed that there's this like weird, and anybody who's had a tabletop night or a game night can vouch for this. There's a moment at the beginning when, probably everybody's about 10 minutes late, right? Or somebody shows up right on time. And so it's just it's a fraction of the party. It's like 2 out of the 8 people that will show up are there then.
Every Saturday night for us, yeah.
Exactly.
It's like everyone will trickle in.
And so the problem is, at least as we saw it, it's annoying because you don't want to start the game that everybody's excited to play, right? Because then it's, normally that requires more people.
Right.
Or, that'll piss people off. It's like, well, what do you mean? We're coming over here for game night and you're playing the game we want to play. You don't start anything that takes a long time. And in general, party games, for like Apples to Apples or Cards Against Humanity and stuff like that, that's really best when there's like 5 to 8 people. You want a larger group. So we were like, all right, 3 people. What kind of game, a fun party game, could be quick and you could play with 3 people? And so, you can get more into this if you go to that Medium post that John wrote about, because this is all about everything from this point in the story till the point in the story that I'm going to jump to. We iterate. We wind up bringing on my friends Meg and Fawn of Guts and Glory. You can check out their stuff, gutsandglory.us. In my opinion, they're some of the best brand and web designers in America. And that is obviously an incredibly biased position, but I don't think that there is any end to their talent. And they're just a dream to work with. They not only gave us amazing design to this game, but also really kicked us in the ass on the final thing that we needed to shake loose, which is we made this very interesting and fun, like Uno mechanic, basically.
All right.
So it was something that was very numbers based. It was very like, do a thing, do a thing, do a thing, do a thing. Well, I have a thing. Well, I box you in on your thing, and now you have this thing. It still involved all the quotes, but they were like, hey, listen, you can't have us wanting to read not only quotes, but also funny translations of quotes and paying attention to whether or not a 7 beats a 3 if it's attack instead of extract, right?
Right.
That's only just so much that you're going to want to pay attention to. So we're like, all right, scrap all that. Let's just read the quotes. And that was their idea. And that's basically where the Contender that effectively was created. And John, as he so eloquently writes in this Medium post, the first thing he does is look at me and says, we're going to need to write a lot more cards. And that's what effectively made it go from like a 150 card game to a 500 card base deck with now 2 expansions, 1 available and 1 on the way.
Right.
Because...
Awesome.
We just kind of realized that there was just going to be, that you needed more and more stuff to figure it out. So yeah, that was kind of the basis of it. And we wanted to keep something with a really quick round time, and it sort of scratched a lot of itches for us in terms of being clever and fun. The game mechanics are fun. So yeah, that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah.
I think for whatever reason, XSplit has done a tremendous zoom in.
There we go.
That game has definitely scratched every itch it needed to scratch for me. In terms of finding the quotes, and so many quotes, has that been a real undertaking, or?
Yes and no. It certainly is a grind. And in the process of doing it, we realized that we had created the largest database of vetted presidential quotes on the internet. And so we made a search function for it.
Awesome.
So now we can find that, which is cool, which was annoying that it didn't exist before, because believe you me, we would have used one.
Hey, when you don't know, you need it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a ton of quote sites, but you would be shocked how many are just completely misattributed.
Wow. What is the name of that? The actual.
I mean, there's a million different. I mean, like all of them are all user generated, so you can't really blame them, right?
Right. But the one that you've created, specific
so ours
to the
is right
quotes,
there on the Contender site.
is it okay?
Yeah, I don't know if we have an easy web portal for it, but that's coming soon. Yeah, and there's a little bit of a grind to it, but ultimately, I mean, that's kind of where my special power on our little band of misfits comes in. Is that I'm just a hardcore political junkie, and I love the pageantry and the theater of it, and that's where we're probably just off the top of my head remembering funny and embarrassing or interesting quotes from candidates is that's probably where I shine on a team comprised of people far more talented than me.
So basically, after this round of elections, we should have our own Trump expansion.
We have the 2016 expansion. Okay, now head on over to the contender.us. You can pre-order it. We're hopefully doing the final approval on the art before they run it off the prints down there in old Dallas, Texas, and send it out to us in Oakland. And then at that point, we're going to get it off to everybody. But tons of Trump. You know, I mean, the funny thing about Trump, though, in terms of contender cards, anybody who's played the game will understand this, is that ultimately he has very, very funny and bizarre or terrifying quotes in context that don't, out of context, necessarily read like much more than kind of gibberish.
Yeah, that's
sure.
true. What do you really have to choose from him anyway? It's going to be huge. We're gonna make America great again. I mean, he only has like 3 buzz statements.
Yeah,
so.
we have two huges. We have a Donald Trump huge.
It's gonna be huge.
Sanders huge. Or I think one of them is it's gonna be huge. YUGE. 2 of them in the deck. And we have a Marco Rubio let's dispel this fiction card, which we almost put in 3 times, like he did in New Hampshire when his campaign imploded on national television.
Yeah, I love it when that happens.
Got a great Ben Carson. I like fruit salad.
I really hope you're gonna add in Trump's 7-Eleven from the other day.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. That's the thing, is at some point these things got to go to bed, right? You know,
Right.
we got to start to get these expansions out here so we can sell them all summer.
You get done, and that's when the
But
real
holy
gold
crap, man.
hits.
Right.
I know that there's definitely going to be. I mean, maybe that's what we'll do. Is just like every 2 weeks or so, we'll just send out print and play updates,
Right.
cards to people, like as things continue to go on.
Now, I'm kind of curious because as it is right now, we have all the cards that are available. We have the base deck, and then we have the politically incorrect expansion, which I love.
Yes, sir.
Is there any are there any plans to make a second politically incorrect expansion?
There are always plans to
Right.
make more of a thing that is very popular.
Fair
This
enough.
game has sold well. If it continues to sell well, and indeed dare perchance to dream sells very well, beyond
Right.
this, then sure. I think the biggest question now would be it's unlikely we do anything else before the election.
Right.
Because I think after we get the 2016 expansion, we'll be pretty well stocked there. But doing more print and play stuff is certainly on the menu, and then we'll see what the sales are past the election. Because I think in our heads, there still is this idea that maybe as soon as the election comes and goes, nobody will buy the game, and we don't know, right? But if we continue to get more and more sales, then certainly in the next year, we're probably going to want to do about an expansion a year. So
Right.
Yeah, I don't think this game is going to be a fad. I think once the election's gone, it's still going to be popular.
Well,
It's intense fun to play regardless, and neither of us are overly political, so
Yeah.
if you've got he and I hooked, I think you've got a thing that's popular. Now, with a game like that, is that considered like independent? Is that an independent game?
yeah. I
Yeah, okay.
think so like it's not like we ain't had
Right.
roll up in. Sorry,
Exactly.
let us in our pocket. Right.
I figured
Like,
that
no,
was
we
mostly
were-
a rhetorical thing. So what does it take to get picked up by like a Milton Bradley, or at least get on store shelves? And
Well,
is that
store
something that you would
shelves are
aim for?
different Store shelves are different than than being picked up by Milton Bradley or something like that. Like anything, to do that is, a very boring process of knowing somebody that sells to Target, and then they take a meeting with Target, and then Target looks over all the things that they could list and or they could stock, and they pick yours from other things, and that's that. But yeah, I mean, at this point though, the two biggest card games of the last 10 years have funded without or have sold without any kind of retail push at all,
Right.
Ours included, that right now, at a card store, a tabletop store near you, you might find a copy of the Contender. Now, the way that normally happens is people contact us. They look for a wholesale price. We sell it to them at a wholesale price so they can sell it for what it gets sold for online.
Right.
And that's it. But we've gotten multiple pictures of people who are, certainly didn't buy from us, because I'm the one who's shipping them. So I know that they didn't get them from anywhere else. And sure enough, they just went and bought it online, and they marked it up a couple dollars from there because they want to be the place where every game is found.
Right.
So that happens. I mean, like it's on shelves certain places.
I know that.
Call me. Hey, listen, JustinRobertYoung@gmail.com. Put Contender in the subject line, man. Like, we are open for business. We'll be happy to ship some stuff to you.
I know that once it went on sale and I had my copy, the first thing I did was I called around to the 3 local game shops that I know, and I'm like, hey, have you guys heard of this? And all 3 of them were like, no. And I'm like, all right, well, check it out, because it's a quality game, and like, you guys need to carry it because people will buy it.
The very boring, and I'll do this as fast as possible before everybody just falls asleep.
That's
and their
fine.
Skulls fall off their necks. Like, there are a few places where they will buy your stuff in bulk wholesale distributors, and then they do the legwork to various stores. The only problem is that for us, because we got it printed in America, our margins aren't great. So there's only so much wholesaling that we can do in general.
Right.
So, and again, listen, Exploding Kittens, Cards Against Humanity, we stand on the shoulders of giants. These guys, both on Kickstarter and elsewhere, have just absolutely done a fantastic job in plowing the road and saying, you want to know what? We're available in a store. It's called Amazon.
Right. Yeah, it's the modern.
It's available everywhere you are.
Right.
It's like the touring rock band of tabletop games or card games.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a great location for it. So of the Contender cards, what would you say is your favorite quote out of the current cards available? Or at least your favorite one, because obviously as the creator, you obviously enjoy playing it too. So when you're playing it,
I have very peculiar favorites, only because as a creator, you have your own little in-jokes to yourself.
Right.
I love Bob Dole. And I've always kind of thought that Bob Dole was just a funny political character. And the idea that he was like of brittle antiquity when he ran for president. And then like within 2 months, like was doing Viagra ads and like, making jokes and stuff. Like
Bob Dole's great though.
What was that?
Bob Dole's great. The very sight of him puts a smile on my face. So,
I mean, and so the funny thing about that is that like, so I've always found Bob Dole a very funny idea and person. And so when we were doing the cards, we have a couple Bob Dole cards, and I wound up making them all kind of like gangster rap lyric-y. Like they're all like, like very aggressive and very like modern. And I found that very funny. So all the Bob Dole cards are my favorite cards.
Brandon, what about you? What's your favorite of the ones that we've encountered so far?
Considering the speed at which we play the game
true.
and the state that I'm in when we play.
That's true. We're usually pretty inebriated.
I couldn't take I couldn't tell you right this second, man.
I would have to say, me personally, my favorite one, and I'm not gonna do it as well as Austin does it. But we have a friend Austin who plays the game with us quite a bit, and the one that's gay.
I knew you were gonna say that.
And he does that with such the perfect inflection.
Yeah.
True story. So we initially had done the politically incorrect deck, and they were being vetted by Guts and Glory, and they were like, these are not mean enough, and they're not grody enough, and they're not like, they're just not politically incorrect. If we're selling politically incorrect, they got to be politically incorrect.
Right. Oh, for sure.
And so it was at their writing that that they as a lesbian couple were the ones who wrote. They're like, oh no, the Nixon quote, it's got to be gay. And so I'm like, awesome, we're definitely going in that. And now I'll let everybody know that the lesbian couple put in the gay quote.
Nice.
That doesn't surprise me, having been raised by lesbians.
We both have lesbian moms, so
their senses of humor are great and much more on point than mine.
And this is kind of a weird turn, but
that's fine.
On the subject of lesbians. So I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, which has the largest per capita amount of LGBT community. Fort Lauderdale and Wilton Manor specifically is a huge enclave for the gay folk. And then I moved out to San Francisco, assuming, I'm like, hey, listen, man, like I've lived amongst the gays forever. Moved to Oakland and realized that like the lesbian aesthetic, that like what I thought of as like the gay community was very much the gay male community. That the gay male community and the lesbian community are kind of two different flavors, right? And like, not to say that there's any significance to that. It was just something that I noticed, and I can just say I dig the lesbian aesthetic. Like I can understand. Like I'm down with it. There's a lot of no nonsense. There's a lot of ball busting. There's a lot of Subarus. Like, it's great.
Dude, there's a lot of Subarus and golden retrievers, man.
Oh man, I'm into it, dude. Like,
no, I totally agree.
Listen, I love to wear flannel and drink beer too. Like this is great.
Look at me. See, I'm a product of my environment.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love where that went. That was great.
Oh, it's so true though. I'm more comfortable with that than I am the standard lifestyle at this point.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So my wife in the Twitch chat says that she loves the Contender as well. So
awesome. Listen, you guys have no idea how much that makes me how excited I am on it. There was a great Dave Chappelle stand up where his a big closer is him being kind of floored by talking to his son, and he has this really big serious build up where his son gives him a macaroni necklace, and he looks at his son and he says he's kind of like welling up, and his son's like, oh, are you sad, Daddy? He's like, no, I'm not sad, I'm really happy. You gotta understand, this is screwed up. You came from my balls. And that's how I feel when people talk about the Contender in a positive way. I'm that did not come from my balls, but it came from my brain, and that's another that's almost half as good.
I'm glad we could wallow in your brain, Tom.
No, I mean, listen, whenever you do something that is made flesh, I don't think I've ever had anything that's reached as many people as the Contender that's a physical thing. There's plenty of people that have listened to podcasts, but in general, podcasts are ephemeral. Like they come and they go and they begin and they end and everything.
Right.
People who buy the Contender are going to have that in their game closet until, it's sold at an estate sale after they die. And that's very exciting to me.
Right.
Yeah, this game it's created memories for us. And Nate and I, before I started podcasting with him, I hadn't seen him in, I don't know, a few years. And, one of the first things we ended up doing was playing the Contender. So just the reconnoitering and the bonding that game has given us, it's brought us closer together than we ever were. So
man, I'll tell you, are you guys trying to make me cry? Like, is this like the thing? Like, you always want to keep saying really nice things until I start bawling? Because it's gonna happen. I'm just saying, you keep pushing this. I'm a race car to red right now. I'm gonna start leaking.
No, but he speaks the truth. It's a lot of fun, and whenever I tell anyone, like, hey, come over for game night, you have to play this game.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, I've been a fan of yours long before Contender. I listened to NSFW. I listen to Night Attack. I'm an avid TMS listener, so I catch you on there every Tuesday. I love the emails that you inspire from people. And then to have this game, I
Well,
knew.
you want to know what? I've never listened to the episode. I've never listened to the Wednesday episodes where people are writing emails about the segment that I did on Tuesday. What are some of the? I didn't know that I inspired awesome emails.
There haven't been any, I don't think lately.
This is on TMS.
Yeah, this
right?
is TMS. Yeah, because Scott, I mean, you guys have been keeping it away from Trump for quite a while. But I think it's funny because the one thing I love about Scott, because that's how I learned about you, was through Scott. And the one thing I love about him is when you back him into a corner, that guy backpedals over what he says more than anybody else that I know.
More than you?
Maybe not more than me, but so it's funny. So you guys talk about such risque topics, whether it be gender equality or politics or like whatever's on your mind. And I think it was either you or him, either last week or the week before. You're like, well, now that we have Hotline Monday, we get all the fluffy stuff out on Monday and we bust out the serious topics on Tuesday.
Yeah, no, I mean it's funny because that is very much the case. Is we don't necessarily want to do a political call-in show, so we're like The Jungle Book. What other movies would you like to see get remade? Like that's kind of our show there. But it's super fun, to take that opportunity to break things out a little bit, because I think that the TMS audience is just so amazing and so unique and so big-hearted that what I've always found fascinating about the Frog Band's audience, and specifically TMS, is that the people listening to it are uniquely, for internet stuff, outcast in their own communities. That what Scott has is in many cases, not universally obviously, but more so than the very coastal heavy shows that we kind of do otherwise, where you have a lot of people in fairly liberal enclaves, either on the eastern seaboard or on the west coast or in major cities. Scott's got a lot of smaller town listenership because he projects that kind of thing, right? That he's like the super nerd, like if you grew up in a small town, all you needed was two people at your high school to hate you for liking computers because they were scared of them, for you to be branded forever as the computer effer, right? Like, that audience, I think, very much identifies with Scott, because here is this guy who is not like every other show where they're in New York or San Francisco or something like that. And so they are inherently talking about an experience that is foreign to them. He's very much has a Midwest aesthetic to him. And almost more specifically, like, has the tenor of somebody that is at the very least understanding and sympathetic to conservative ideas, as opposed to what I think is kind of a not a mistake, but an unfortunate element of a lot of other shows where you were just outright hostile to anything that is not, capital P progressive, capital L liberal kind of politics. So
Right.
the fact that you mesh all those things together and you bring all those audiences, and now it's like, okay, well then as long as we introduce every weighty topic by saying, let's think about all sides of this. The TMS crowd, I think, has a tremendous capacity to think through things in a safe space where it's not, just a gunfight every single time.
Right.
It's not necessarily like everybody's got to die. And that's the cool thing about, I think, where me and Scott have a good repartee, and Brian as well, is that we cannot agree and have a great conversation.
Right.
Or we can just say, hey, listen, we don't know, but let's still have the conversation. like let's roll over this in our heads in a way that we kind of roll over and show our pink bellies and say, like, hey, listen, if somebody wants to stab us, they can. But what we're saying is, like, hands up, like we're just trying to think through this on the air. And I think that there is something exciting to that. Like there's something that I think people want to be part of it. And then there's, whenever we talk about Trump, I mean, listen, it's an election year, and everybody's got their gang colors on, and they're not looking to have a conversation. They're looking to win the gang war.
Right. Yeah. They seem to have those gang colors bright and proud this year too. I think this is the loudest I have ever heard. Or maybe it's just because it's more in the public eye. Not to get into a big political discussion, but
here's the loudest. Yeah. Every election is the most important, and that is hyperbole, but it's not untrue.
Right?
Always more important. It's always louder. It's always nastier. It's always grosser. Yep. Like there's just.
This is just the first year where I've seen dick jokes.
I know, right?
This is the number one. Somebody without previous political experience that's also non-military.
Yeah,
it's very rare to get this far.
Helps when you can fund your own campaign.
Yeah, I mean, and his funding his own campaign is also a very interesting thing. But but yeah, no, I mean, I think like he is, by all accounts, maybe the most, not maybe, without a doubt, the most fascinating political candidate that has come around in 50 years. I mean, you'd have to say since Eisenhower.
Yeah, he's definitely woken people up, but I am excited to see, or curious to see, I'm not excited, but I want to see what voter turnout is when it comes down to it. And do you think that he'll actually go all the way, or do you think he'll backpedal and just use this so he can go to speaking engagements and make money off it?
So initially, when I was in the business of making incorrect predictions about Donald Trump, I would have said, yeah, listen, he ain't in this for the long term. He wants to be able to write political books that'll sell better, and he wants to lock in more than he has now, the speaking engagements, and to get that several $1 million payday to speak for 30 minutes at the car dealership owners association meeting or whatever. But now, I think he's trying to go the distance. You saw over the last week that he tried to round his campaign into shape. He wrote a shockingly cogent editorial.
Yep.
Or opinion piece rather, not an editorial, in the Wall Street Journal. And I think what you're seeing is him trying to be more of an adult, which I think if he would have done after Florida, this would be over.
Yeah.
Because I think the Republican electorate was ready to give him a look with fresh eyes. And when they did, he was still yelling about Megyn Kelly and how she's unfair.
Do you think that he's surprised himself and how far he's come? And now he's like, oh, I better button down at this point.
I say this as a tremendous compliment to Donald Trump. I don't think that his ego ever lacks for elasticity. So even if he initially thought that he would do well but fall short, and he wanted to just be a protest candidate, I don't think that as he started to do better, he had a hard time convincing himself that he indeed could be the best president in American history.
I don't think that you could have put that any better.
What fascinates me is going back to specifically things that you do with Politics X3.
Yeah,
it's like it's this amazing graph of like, within those first couple episodes, it's like, all right, Trump ain't gonna make it. He's gonna sell himself down the river somehow, some way. Trump ain't gonna make it, and then it slowly transitions to, holy shit, this bastard may have a chance.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, and I don't think that was necessarily. I wish I had come out stronger for Trump's gonna be the president, like back in Iowa,
right?
Because that would have made me look a whole hell of a lot better than just kind of rolling down the river like everybody else. But it's hard to say that. Somebody who doesn't have a lot of precedent like Trump is. Like, politics are kind of like the NBA. Like at the end of the day, you kind of know who's going to be there at the end before the season starts. Like, it's very rare that you have gigantic upsets. Like, yeah, maybe the second best team in the conference might make the finals instead of the first best team. But at the end of the day, there's only really 5 teams that have a chance to win the championship. And in politics, it's relatively the same way. There's usually about only 3 or 4 people that at the beginning of a political season really have the chance to be president.
Right.
And Trump was one of those. Nobody saw it coming, and that happens so rarely in politics that, you know, me and a bunch of other jamokes, you know, looked at it and just kind of said, like, no, he'll self-destruct, he'll implode, he'll self-destruct, he'll implode, and then proceeded to do all the things that you would think would be him self-destructing and imploding, except for the part where, you know, he self-destructs or implodes. Like, you know, he's just, if anything, I think that the lesson of Donald Trump going forward will be that you don't need to be picture perfect in 2016 and beyond. Like that, there's an element of authenticity that as long as you meet authenticity with authenticity, you will do fine. You can make a mistake. You can say, you can confuse 9/11 for 7/11. You can call John McCain a puss for getting caught. You know, you can do all the things that he's done, but he has shown up the next time anyone's seen him, not chastened, not I made some remarks that I find, you know, distasteful. Even when he has misspoken, which has been that his campaigns had to walk back. It's a quick.
Yeah,
it's a press release, and that's it.
Right.
He never appears chastened, and that's something that is, I think, no matter what you think about Trump and his policies and opinions, it'll be hard to not see, both in the midterms and in the next presidential election, on whatever side loses in this one, that there will be more of a shoot from the hip, like let's go for the. We underestimated how much the can do.
Yeah, it's definitely going to make politics interesting, and I think, you know, the floodgates are open for the next election season, and I think there might be people who maybe had a passion to run for a political office, but didn't think that they were cut from the right cloth to do it, that now maybe have had their eyes open going, you know what, I might have a real shot at this. Let's give it a shot. Let's try it.
Well, I think that's all that people really want is somebody who's just genuine for once.
Right.
Maybe you don't agree with what he says, but the sheer fact that he's so unapologetic and says it anyway, and he rolls it off, oh, that's fine. Whatever, we'll just keep going.
Yeah.
Like, that is what you need.
And I think that is partly, and who knows whether or not there's going to be diminishing returns past him with that.
Right.
There is an element of like, oh God, thank you. Somebody will talk like my loud drunk uncle.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like there's a comforting thing about that.
Right.
And it's not just focus group to death, you know, like know to raise your left hand with the same speed as your pentameter, like debate club manicured speech. Like there's nobody who's going to look at Donald Trump and say like, oh yeah, he flubbed that line. Like he has no lines. He just,
Yeah.
you know, he just, you know, his stump speech is effectively just, you know, he's got notes on stage. I don't think he works off a teleprompter.
No, how could he?
The rest of his speech is just his enemies list. Like it's just like people that he doesn't like.
Oh, for sure.
The 7 goddamn 11.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be the next few months will be very telling, and it will be very exciting. You know, with Trump coming out of nowhere, now we've got Bernie, who's kind of coming up from the backfield and gaining some ground. So the Bernie supporters are getting a little excited. But
well, it all depends on how the media
far better
swings
than
it.
anybody would have thought he would have done.
yeah, he's the Donald Trump of the Democrats. Like nobody expected him to be there.
He's the Larry David of the Democrats.
Certainly, I mean, in more ways than one. You know, he is another fascinating story. But the comp I would make to Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders fans will not like what I'm about to say, but I implore you to just hear me out and let me get my whole piece through before you start writing me hate mail.
At justinrobertyoung@gmail.com.
JustinRobertYoung@gmail.com. Put F-U a-hole in the subject line. Bernie reminds me more of Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum last year on the Republican side than he reminds me of Donald Trump this time. In that they are undeniable representations of a very, very fed up electorate. The Republicans got Mitt nominated and then just kind of put all those lessons in a drawer, and I'm sure it was at a very expensive desk because it's the Republican establishment. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that they then spent the next 3.5 years smoking fine cigars and drinking whiskey that the rest of the world would be thrilled to have in very distinct pebbled glass. And then the next election cycle happened and Donald Trump popped up. And they were like, oh, crap, we forgot to learn any lessons from this gigantic thing. And that's what Bernie reminds me of. Now, he is a singular character, not split over two people. He certainly has captured the imaginations and hopes of a sizable portion, a recognizable portion of the Democratic electorate. And I think we will more see the fact that either the Democrats are going to learn a lesson from Bernie Sanders next time, either in trying to reelect Hillary or in fielding a nominee against Presidents Trump or Cruz, or they will find themselves completely hijacked by a candidate like Bernie Sanders.
Right. Yeah, it'll be...
And that's the knife says that we walk with him, and that worries me.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's all going to be very interesting. But now that, okay, so we've singled out...
He's a more local guy for you, right? You guys are up in Maine, so like, were you like aware of Bernie?
No.
Like,
No, we're not really political people. And really, and again, to toot your horn a little bit, really what's so much this season is your game and your podcast. Because
awesome.
It makes it fascinating for me because I love your interpretation of it.
All right, that's a perfect time to ask a question I've been waiting to ask for my own means. So can you give me a list and tell me a little bit about the podcast you do so I can add to the 56 that I already listened to?
Well, hold on. Before he does that, I queued this up because it's part of your jury show, and you are the reason that I know this band. So we can't start talking about this show without doing a little bit of this.
It's like that was playing out of the song that I opened jury with. Is playing out of the same speakers that I normally open jury with, and now like I'm having phantom limb. Like I want to adjust the audio and make sure that I'm recording and doing all the things that I normally do when I'm listening to that song. No, the Possum Posse is great. I really can't say enough about them. If you like, I am sympathetic to country. There are elements of country for which I very much enjoy. I am not a top 40 country listener by any stretch.
No, definitely not.
But Possum Posse, man, I can't get enough of them. I love them so much, and Jomo and the boys are so fantastic. Big shout out to them. All right, well, here, you want to do the rundown of the podcast? The easiest way to do it is to give you my schedule. So Monday, Hotline Monday. Tuesday, morning bit with Scott on TMS, and then Night Attack at night. Wednesday, free day. That's today.
What is Night Attack?
Night Attack, when or what is Night Attack?
What is it?
Night Attack is probably my longest running show. That is the me and Brian Brushwood comedy program, for which has won us 2 podcast awards and netted us 2 #1 Billboard comedy chart debuts. So we were very, very excited about that. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that people know me for outside of that and TMS. If I'm on the if somebody recognizes me, it's usually that. Thursday is Daily Tech News Show. Friday is Politics, Politics, Politics.
That one I listened to.
And then Saturday and Sunday I have Weird Things, and then the Jury Show, which is the one for which we just played the theme song for, the Possum Possum.
And I can recommend them all because
The Jury Show and Weird Things. What are the general outlines of those?
Brian and Andrew Main. We talk about all the news of the weird, and it is also a science podcast. So we talk all about and rad, super awesome science stuff.
That's right up my alley.
But then also our love of the of the paranormal. Now, understand that we are all skeptics, but as the motto of the show goes, we do not believe that Bigfoot is real. We believe that Bigfoot is awesome.
Nice. Yeah, that I really like that one too. And I'm a big fan of Andrew Main. I actually just downloaded I just looked at this. Name of the Devil. The
audiobook, right?
Yes. Yep.
Audiobook just came out, man. I remember, God, I read Name of the Devil 4 years ago now. It was a while ago. He wrote that pretty soon after the first Jessica Blackwood book.
Angel Killer, right?
Angel Killer.
Yeah.
And I was so blown away by it, man. I'll tell you what, if you dig his stuff, you should definitely check out his newest Station Breaker. That might be, I think, my favorite thing he's ever done. It's so good.
Now that's a separate storyline. That's not Jessica Blackwood, right?
That's not Jessica Blackwood. No, the only two Jessica Blackwood novels are Name of the Devil and Angel Killer. And then what's it called? Station Breaker is kind of a Jason Bourne meets SpaceX.
Nice.
Kind of tale, but it's so fun.
Nice.
It's great.
Yeah, he had me hooked with Angel Killer. The whole like serial killer / like magician. I'm like, all right, I'm in. Like, this is like David Blaine meets Hannibal Lecter. This is awesome.
Now, here's the thing, man. No, at the point that he wrote that, we were working together. I was working for him in a warehouse in Margate, Florida, and there was a lot of us, just hustling, just doing a lot of stuff and seeing return, right? But not necessarily like we were breaking the bank and money bags were falling from the sky, right?
Right.
So understand that Andrew might be, in my opinion, one of the most fertile, amazing magic minds in the world. There ain't a whole lot of them, and you could probably rattle them off, under a list of 25, right? But Andrew, to me, is on it, and when I'm reading this book, I mean, like I said, by the time that everybody else in the world read it, either it was on Amazon, formatted, or published by HarperCollins, or in an audio book or something. There's an element of professionality that went into the way that most people read it. Literally, this was just my friend telling me, "Hey, read this," like in a Word document, right?
Right.
So understand that Andrew is a great illusionist, right? Like, he's brilliant about thinking these methods. So in the book, for those of you who haven't read it, it involves a serial killer making things look like they're miracles, to the point where it kind of confuses the press and creates mass hysteria throughout the world, which is cool as a story. But when your friend's like, so anyway, like this, I'm like, oh my God, he could do all of these things. Like, thank God, he's like writing them down and trying to, like, at least I hope so. I'm just like, this is gonna ruin my alibi if he pulls off one of these things in real life. Like, all of a sudden there's just gonna be, a paper trail of me having read a blow by blow way of him, murdering somebody in Times Square. But I'm obviously joking. But,
right. You're fortunate that he's sane.
I can't put into words how talented Andrew Main is and how smart Andrew Main is. He's in many ways, anything that I do, I have done because I have learned lessons from Andrew. He's probably the greatest influence aside from my mom on me and my work ethic and my creativity that I've ever had.
Nice. That's a positive thing. And yeah, like I said, he just based off the books and based off of when I hear him converse on the shows and stuff, I enjoy. I've always been a big fan of Magic. When I was a little kid, I even fell on the Chris Angel bandwagon for a little while.
Oh yeah,
which I think a lot of people did, until he became less of a magician and more of a stunt man.
Well, I mean that was it was very fashionable at the time. Because Blaine really started. Although endurance elements had always been a thing in Magic. For whatever anybody wants to say about Chris Angel in terms of Magic, like that's a dude who has performed a ton of Magic. I don't think people realize how hard it is to do as many episodes of Mind Freak as he did.
Right. Now Mind Freak is over, right?
Oh yeah.
Been over, right?
Yeah.
Where he had to do a ton of stuff, man. That was like, he's doing like 8 illusions or tricks an episode.
Right.
And a lot of them are, you got to do 1 or 2 big ones and then a bunch of small ones. That's a lot of effort,
Right.
It's hard to do. And he really deserves a lot of credit for that.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I said I always enjoyed it. And I loved some of the stuff. And I just love that, like, so many people are like, oh, like, I want to know how he did that. And obviously now in the internet era, a lot of these big tricks, you can go and look up and find how it's done and stuff like that.
Humans.
What's that?
Yeah, have you seen those, the what? How could it have been done?
I haven't, but if it sounds like that, I want to.
It's a guy who has this thick New Zealand accent.
Right.
He records everything. Everything has it. His voice is so overmodulated, but he's got this thick New Zealand accent, and he exposes. The whole point is that he's exposing these tricks. Right. Now, the meta level of that is that, like, in general, there's only X amount of ways that any kind of magic trick gets done. And he so often gets them wrong, which is really, really funny. But what's easily the most funny thing about it is that he does it all in illustrations. And he has this very off-kilter and weird sense of humor. And the pivotal moment of every video is he's, like, explaining, like, David Blaine claims that he can make a woman disappear from Times Square. He claims that she has full knowledge of where she is. And then here's the big moment. The moment in the middle is, but how could this have been done? Could it have been demons? And then he as much as I loathe magician reveal videos, I think that they're just like, whatever. If you really, really, really want to find something out, that's fine. You want to make a video about it. I kind of get annoyed with the idea that, like, oh, we're revealing it because these people are trying to pull one over on us. And it's like, no, stop.
Right. It's part of the illusion, and it's part of the fantasy that you get to live in.
You're ruining the allure at that point.
Well, I mean, like, it's not, I don't know. In general, I kind of find, like, I don't know how much damage it does to Magic. I just kind of find the whole process annoying. But his would be the only that I would say that you should go watch. The only thing that would make me recommend a Magic exposure video is his. And I would say that not only because they are very, very funny to watch, at least for me, but also most of the explanations are wrong.
Nice. I'll check it out. Really quick, friend of yours in the chat room, Carrie Sims, says hello.
Oh, hey. Carrie's great, man. Carrie was thinking about putting together a contender thing out there where she's at in the in the Midwest.
Nice. Yeah, we were, and now that you mentioned that, I'm glad, because Brandon and I briefly talked about it. We were thinking about doing one up in Maine. Have you gotten, because that contender, have you gotten one for Maine yet?
Yeah, you want to know what? I mean, like, we're really we really want to kickstart this. So if you just play the game with your friends, you ain't got to set up a Facebook thing. If you do, you want to grab other contender people that are excited, we're always happy to promote it. But just take a picture of you having a good time with your friends, playing the game at your house, in public, whatever you want. And we'll send you stuff, man. We got Contender buttons, we got stickers. We'll be happy to get some get some swag out to you.
Nice. Last couple times we played, we did it. We hooked up the webcams, played it all live on YouTube. So
I'll tell you what, I saw that. I loved it. I know we retweeted it, but we should definitely put it out on the mailing list.
well, I appreciate that. But yeah, no, it was cool, and it as that game it inspired alcohol and vulgarity, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So I think we covered that stuff there. Do you want to talk about wrestling for a little bit? I'm excited to talk about.
Okay, what do you got?
I don't know how much time you got, so I don't want to keep you too long.
I always got enough time to talk wrestling. Go ahead.
Awesome. All right. First thing that's on my mind fresh. I came out of WrestleMania thinking it was one of the best ones I've seen in a long time. What were your opinions on it?
I mean, it's WrestleMania. It's hard to be down on it. I personally didn't. I only got caveat. I only got back into wrestling with the network.
Right.
The network and the ability for me to catch every pay-per-view for a reasonable price totally got me in.
Yeah.
Can I just say that they need to air Raw live on the network because I don't have cable, and they need to drop this contract with USA and let me watch the weekly show?
Oh, I mean, I don't know how soon that's gonna happen.
No, I know.
Not soon. You're right about the network, though.
Reasonable, a very, very reasonable price that for a cord cutter is probably something that you might want to spend money on anyway. So,
Right.
I too would like it all under one roof. I would happily pay more if I'd pay $15 a month if I could also watch Raw and SmackDown on it. But that their decision to do that is their decision to do that.
Right.
That being said, of the 3 WrestleManias, since I came back into the fold, I would probably put it. I don't know where I would put it between 31 and 32. I don't know which one I would put over which one. I thought they were all great. I loved all of them, but nothing can really touch that Daniel Bryan.
No, not at all. Did you see that vignette they put together for him that was live on the network? It was about half hour, 40 minutes long, and it was all about his retirement. Yeah, that was really emotional.
I mean, and it's funny that, not funny, but it is ironic that as he retires, kind of his legacy is really on display now more than ever. That you have a lot of these indie guys that they're like, oh yeah, no, let's just kind of let them do what they do, and then as they get comfortable and over with the crowd, then we can kind of put our little WWE shine on it. Because, like, listen, the WWE, for all the crap that everybody gives Vince McMahon, like, he is by far the greatest wrestling promoter of any era at any time. He has created made himself a billionaire on men and women in their underwear fake fighting. So it's like that man is a genius. And I think their expertise and his expertise can benefit guys like Daniel Bryan. They can benefit guys like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn that we beloved, like Shinsuke Nakamura, that can bring what people love about them to a larger audience. But I think the idea of just saying, like, all right, we don't gotta have these guys like perfect from the get. We can let them kind of build their own thing a little bit, and then we can kind of steer them where we want them. I think that's great, and to me that's Bryan's legacy.
Right, makes sense.
I'm glad you said Owens and Zayn.
Yeah,
I love those two guys right now.
I mean, they're great. I'll tell you what, it's amazing how much they are literally just running back from NXT. They're just, hey, Natalya, Charlotte, run it back. Worked at NXT, it'll work here. Like Zayn and Owens, like if anything, the only disappointment I have is that they haven't built that up even more, and they still got another 2 weeks to do it. So it's like, I want the big, the meaty like promos. I want Owens, showing on the Jumbotron that last match they had at NXT that put Sammy out of commission for 8 months or whatever.
Right.
Like that's what I want. I want things to get really personal and really brutal, and have them, be be at each other's throats for a year until we have a big blow off at WrestleMania. That if I could have my wish, it ends in a ladder match in Orlando. A little less than a year from now.
Right, for sure. Speaking of, ladders in WrestleMania, that final hit that KO took in that 6-man ladder match, I don't know if you recall, but when it looked like he
was that when Zayn put him was it the dragon suplex?
Yeah.
We were all sitting there like, did he just die? Because he bent around the rung of that ladder.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, listen, if you've watched their ladder battles in Ring of Honor, like those two, for whatever reason, it's their match for a reason.
Right.
They are artists when it comes to ladder related brutality.
It's nice to have ladder artists back in there because, we missed that from like the Attitude Era with like the Hardys and Edge and Christian and stuff like that, because those were some of the best matches of that era.
It's funny. I was actually watching randomly. I just had the network on and I saw a rivalry little mini doc that they had with Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys, and it is amazing how much they were. At that point, it's like you had all these guys that were doing really big. They were the biggest characters that wrestling, as it turns out, would ever see. And they were like, well, listen, like, how do we do anything? How do we make ourselves a name? And the idea of them doing not only the first ladder match, but then the tables, ladders, and chairs match that next major pay-per-view, and boom. I mean, I remember those were influential on me. I remember when I was a kid watching that wrestling.
Oh yeah, that spear from what was it, Hardy hanging from the belt?
Yep.
And then the spear from the top of the ladder.
Yeah, it's Matt Hardy hanging, and
No, Jeff Hardy.
Edge comes off the ladder with the spear.
So many great moments. Jeff swantoning off like, what was it, like a 30-foot ladder onto the table down below, and but it's nice that they seem to be slowly crawling back to that a little bit. Again with KO and Zayn. Even what Shane did in the Hell in a Cell. I mean, he pulled a Mankind. He pulled a Shane McMahon. I mean, like Shane McMahon has done those same things, but yeah, nobody's come off the top of the cell at that height since Mick Foley, and he. I mean, that was a crazy spot. It's funny now though, because when you go back and watch, let's say something like ECW, which at its time was revolutionary for a million different reasons, now it's almost cringeworthy, because you go back and especially now, it's like, Balls Mahoney just died. Like you are a little bit more cognizant of the cost of life when you watch some of those matches now, or you turn on Raw and you see what Devon Dudley's forehead looks like.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, like, this is, there's a cost to this. And I think that's a different element of wrestling fandom now than it used to be. Like, it's the reason why, I think if somebody wants to bust open their own eyebrow to add blood to the match, then that's fine, like the Undertaker and Brock Lesnar did. But I think it's probably better off that we don't necessarily have blading in the same way, in the modern the modern product, or headshots in the same way. Like, I think it's probably for the best.
Yeah, I don't think I would disagree with that. I mean, you had those iconic moments like the bloody Stone Cold from that epic match with Bret Hart. You had the bloody Ric Flair from that big match with Macho Man. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, Flair. I mean, that was one of the first pay-per-views we watched on our That Was Awesome podcast, was because I remembered as a kid watching that and that blood spot because Flair had the bright white hair.
Yep.
So
let him just be stuck to the mat.
Right.
I'll be right back.
Oh, okay, sure. But it was a lot of fun. And wrestling is it's one of those things that's like so many people over the generations have grown up with it. and it holds a different spot in everybody's heart, whether it's, you know, Hogan or even Yokozuna. You know, what is arguably considered one of the worst WrestleManias of all time was my first, which was WrestleMania 9.
Yeah.
I have this really cool symbiotic relationship with WrestleMania in that WrestleMania 1 was right around my first birthday. My birthday's April 4th. I was born in 85, or I'm sorry, 84. So I turned 1 like within days of WrestleMania 1. So I've always grown with it.
WrestleMania?
What's that?
Have you been to a WrestleMania?
I've never been to one, but unfortunately, I went to BlizzCon. I got that off my bucket list. Now the last thing on my bucket list is a WrestleMania. That's over a Super Bowl.
Here's what I would say, especially if it's around your birthday, you can treat yourself, right? Like WrestleMania now, as I understand it, it has really filled itself out as like a 5-day event.
Yeah, I have a coworker that went to one, and yeah, you got WrestleMania week and.
Well, and really because we are in sort of this golden age for indie promotions,
Right.
that like, you know, there's something special to it, you know, and you know, last when it was in San Francisco, we went to, God, you know, every night there was an amazing indie promotion that you could go to. And we wound up skipping WrestleMania and going to Raw the next night. That was money better spent. But, you know, between WrestleMania, or sorry, Raw and NXT, man, that was some of the most fun that I've ever had in a week.
Nice.
Just going to all the indie stuff.
Yeah, I like the direction that they're going with NXT, and I really hope that is indicative of the future of wrestling. Because one of the things that we always talk about, especially when it comes to watching the old pay-per-views, you know, going back, like the first WCW one we watched was the one everybody has to watch, which was Hogan's Turning Point, Bash at the Beach in '96.
Oh yeah,
and you gotta watch that. And then, but you go back and we had watched, I think it was one of the Starcades.
By the way, you know Anthony Carboni? We have concerns.
Yes.
You know, he grew up in Central Florida. His friends had tickets to that pay-per-view, and he was gonna go, wound up not going.
Oh.
He had a chance.
Oh.
One of the most iconic moments in wrestling.
I would probably argue the most iconic moment. I mean, I don't.
There's a short list, you know, in terms of turns that meant something. Like,
I mean, yeah, I think the only thing. Really quick, what I was gonna say before I lose that thought. So, looking back at like we did like a '97 Starcade, right? And you got like your Dean Malenko versus Billy Kidman and Ultimo Dragon, Psychosis, stuff like that. And they were really utilizing the lightweight mid-carders well before WWF was.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
And then, because Vince always has this obsession with like overly steroided jacked dudes main eventing his pay-per-views. And it's just really slow to watch after you've watched so many fast-paced matches. Like even WrestleMania, Triple H versus Reigns, it was such a cool down, like after everything else we had seen that night.
Well, I mean, I think that they also shot themselves in the foot with that. Like,
yeah, they totally did.
Yeah. My wife's in the chat is asking, what's your opinion on Roman Reigns?
I was hoping we didn't cover that while I was out of the room.
No, I waited for you to get back.
All right, cool.
I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think he's a good guy. I think he's the guy.
Don't you think that they should have changed his gimmick a little bit? I mean, they've done so much with Ambrose and Rollins, but they haven't done... He does not have the charisma to carry that title.
I actually disagree with that. I think he does have the charisma to
Do
carry
tell.
the title. I don't think that he has the charisma to be John Cena. And I think that's what they wanted him to be.
Fuck John
But,
Cena.
We don't like John Cena. My daughter loves John Cena.
listen, John Cena...
John Cena can work. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
He's great. But
And I respect-
I just don't. It doesn't do it for me.
And I greatly respect everything he does outside of the organization when it comes to the Miracle Network stuff like that. But admittedly, like I was so pumped up during 32, like I was excited when Cena came back. Like I was cheering.
Yeah.
Listen, I miss Cena so much. I think where he was at the point that he left was easily my favorite that I have ever. And granted, I missed, like, not only did I miss John Cena being legitimately super popular and over for 6 years, right? I missed the intervening 8 years where everybody was just kind of so sick of him being the top guy that the older fans kind of really turned against him. I thought what he did with the U.S. title was fantastic last year. That was great. Like he wrestled such diverse, interesting styles,
Right.
like during that year. I thought it was really something special. And now I could not be more excited for him to mix in where the company is now between AJ Styles. He already had that great Kevin Owens feud.
Right.
You know, I think him and Roman Reigns could be great. So to ask your point, Roman Reigns is a freak athlete. I think he does have a great charisma to him. The problem is that they really have been trying hard to hammer him in to that, like, you know, that John Cena. He can make jokes. He can get angry. Like, you know, John Cena is a very unique performer, and they were trying to make him, and that's never going to work. He is a big, greasy, biker-looking Samoan badass dude, and I love where they have him now. I think where they have him now is like, you know, listen, if you want to boo me, then F off. Like, I don't want to deal with you. Like, I'm not here to get cheered. I'm here to be the champion.
Right.
Like, you know, and that to me, it's a well-worn pathway for wrestling. It's like, listen, you can like it or not, you're gonna have to learn to love it. That was the Ric Flair adage, and there's no reason why Roman Reigns can't kind of fall into that there. The more they try to, you know, have him make jokes about tater tots and stuff, like, I think that's where he loses the audience.
Right. Yeah. I will say there is something to be said for that. I was having a conversation with Joey Image, and he was saying that because he's a Reigns supporter, and one of the things that he likes about Reigns is it's not about the mic skills, which is what it was about for so long in the 90s. It's not about this. It's about, can the guy actually wrestle? And whether you like him or not, whether you think he's boring or not, or whether he has the charisma, the guy can perform in the ring. And there's something to be said for that they're taking him seriously. They're making him the face of the company as the champion, when the guy, you know, can't really work his way around the mic all that well, but he can perform.
You want to know what? He had the best match with Brock Lesnar other than anybody in the last 5 years, other than The Undertaker. You know, as great as the John Cena, Seth Rollins 3-way was, like, that just involved a lot of, like, you know, it's hard to have Seth Rollins, as great as he is in that heel role, like, have it look like it's anything other than Brock Lesnar just tossing him around. Right. Reigns gave him just standing up to him and fighting, like, that looked brutal. Like, if even just because it looked like a UFC fight, it looked like just two. I mean, like, it's different when him and the Undertaker fight, because it's just two brontosauruses like slamming their necks against each other. But like, Roman Reigns looked like this is a man who could defeat a god.
Right.
And that's when you talk about the look, when you talk about Vince's obsession with, like, the big muscle guys, that's what I think he focuses on, is that when you need to have that moment to culminate it all, you kind of got to be this tall to ride.
Right. That's very true. Unless you're Mysterio, which they gave a little bit of a free pass to for a little while.
Well, and that's fine. It's like, but like, so if you're going to make up for that, then you need to be Rey Mysterio over, right? Like Rey Mysterio was beloved. Daniel Bryan is beloved, and Daniel Bryan could wrestle that match with Batista and Randy Orton because they're kind of bigger than him. If you are doing a Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar, which is a match that, God, we all, you know, wished we would have seen,
right?
Like, that takes a ton of talent from Daniel Bryan and Brock Lesnar to make it in any way look like this little guy can beat this big guy.
Yeah.
Right, for sure. For sure. Did you have anything else?
No.
No, you good? All right.
Only because, milkman.
Yeah, I know. You got to be up in, 5.5 hours?
No, sooner than that at this point. Not a
So,
big deal.
No, it's not at all. So I think we'll kind of get around to wrapping it up. We definitely have to do something wrestling related with you.
Oh, yeah. I would love to bring back That Was Awesome and have you come on.
Hey, man, whatever you need, just holler at me.
Oh, for sure. Why don't you let all of our lovely listeners know where they can find you and your stuff?
Easiest way to do it is go to Justin R. Young on Twitter. That is Justin R. Young on Twitter. If you want to buy the Contender, you can do it at thecontender.us. And that's pretty much it.
Very cool. I like Justin. I think he's a cool guy, and I like listening to his shows. So if you don't, I highly suggest you check them out. This man does a one mic podcast like you would not believe, as you can tell by how well he talked this evening.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I mean, I don't want to sell myself short. I do 2 one mic podcasts, so yeah.
You do them so well, you spread over into a second one.
Indeed. I try my best, man.
Very cool. Well, again, just for you guys, it's at Justin R. Young on Twitter, thecontender.us to check out that card game, which I also highly suggest that you do.
Yes, definitely. Highly satisfying.
And as he said, make sure you guys, it's at Contender Game on Twitter, right?
At Contender Game and facebook.com/thecontender game.
Okay, cool. So if you guys buy that game and play it, as he said, make sure you tweet some pictures of everybody playing it. Let them know
man.
how much you love
Send it to us. We always love to see the game being played in the wild.
Very cool, very cool. And as for the show, excuse me, as always, you can catch Mind of a Geek live, typically on Mondays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, unless we're, again, making special occasions for different guests. And it's typically on YouTube. YouTube was being dumb tonight, so we're on Twitch. Those of us that joined us live, we appreciate you migrating over here for the evening. But typically that would be found at youtube.com/inkedgeekstudio/live. Excuse me. Late. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at IG_Mind of a Geek. You can find the schedule of upcoming guests as well as show notes for all of our past guests over at inkedgeekstudios.com/Mind of a Geek. If you have a question or comment for an upcoming guest, you can submit your questions over at tiny.cc/MOAG submit. And if you are a creator or designer in any way, or if you are just really passionate about a geeky topic, please be sure to go to tiny.cc/MOAG guest and get yourself on the show. As always, if you enjoy the content that we provide for you here at Mind of a Geek and the rest of Inked Geek Studios, please consider going to patreon.com/IG Studios and help show your support for this show and everything else that we provide here. We thank everyone who currently supports us. We've jumped up quite a bit this week. So everyone that's upgraded their patron support, everyone that's new to Patreon, a big thank you. We love you guys, and we really appreciate that you are helping us do what we love to do. If you don't wish to or can't help us financially, the best way to show your support in that way is to help spread the word. Rate us on your favorite podcatcher, tell a friend, share a link, or all of the above. And a big thank you to everyone that does that as well. So, Justin, thank you again for taking the time to be with us tonight. Look forward to speaking with you again real soon.
Definitely.
Thank you, sir.
And for Brandon, for myself, for Justin, and for IG Studios, have a good night. We will see you tomorrow night at 9:15 p.m. Eastern time with Patrick Beja. And until then, everybody enjoy the rest of your week. Come on, Soundbite.
I know, I was waiting.
This is the running joke for the studio is Soundbite always crashes. See, now it's there we go.
Ooh, faster than usual. Yeehaw.
Cool.
That was awesome.
It was.
I'm sorry that I got fatigued at the end.
Oh, no, man. Don't worry about it.